Hello, Jason.
Hello, Michael. How's it going?
Fantastic.
So, Michael DeBars, how's it going with you in the world of music and rock and roll these days?
How is it? It's three chords and Chuck Berry. Jason, you know that.
So, how is life treating you these days?
How is my life today?
Yeah, treating you like everything great?
Well, I treat it, I think, the other way around, Jason. I don't mean to sound obscure, but it's how I treat it. I think is more important, you know. I don't like being treated. I like to, make things happen rather than wait for them to make happen. And I'm being deadly serious.
That's a good point. No, not many people look at it like that. It's, or at least not the way I've heard it, but that's great. Wow. Michael, you got a new live EP coming out. Tell me about that.
It's out. It's out.
Oh, it is out.
It came out on the 10th. And it's with a punk label, Die Laughing Records, Golden Robot Records. And what it is it's, for fun, I put together a bunch of guys who I've known and respected over the years. And I called them all up and I said, I just want to go into a club and play 70s rock and roll. Marshall Stacks, Les Pauls, no teleprompter, no fireworks, no dancers. Just you, me, and Steve Marriott's Ghost. And we'll play rock and roll music. And that's exactly what we did. I don't know if you've listened to it, but that's what it sounds like.
That's well said. I mean, isn't that what the people should all do nowadays,
No. I think Billie Eilish, Weekend, Jordan the Great, Cardi B, fantastic. It's another world. Then it's the 70s. Now we're in 2020, and this generation has its own heroes and heroines.
Right. That's true.
I don't long for the past. You know what I mean, Jason? I'm not like nostalgically minded. I experienced it from 1970 till today, and if you look at all of the bands I've been in, it's the same music. It's something different. It's all blues-based rock and roll music. The beats, it's heartbeats below the waist, as my ex-wife is fond of saying.
And when you do have Marshall Stacks in back you, it makes it look good too, I would say.
If you do what?
If you have Marshall Stacks behind you live on stage, it certainly looks good.
Absolutely, you look much better in front of a Marshall Stack. No doubt about that. But all of those details, are terribly important to me. But the most important thing is just going into a club of 200 people and just kicking ass and having fun. And, if they want to hear Raw Power by Iggy, I'll play that. It's not about what I did at Live Aid. It's a different world. I mean, I started it when I was 18, and here we are. And I love the same music. Have I always played the same music? No, because I've adapted to the various decades that I was in.
Right, and evolving in music as well.
I beg your pardon?
Evolving with music as well as it goes.
Not really.
No? Okay.
Perfectly candid. No, I didn't evolve at all. I mean, I just liked the blues and played it and sang really loud and as much as I could, and I never really thought of obscure chords to learn. I don't think I evolved at all.
Well, let's say from the 1970s to today, everybody evolves musically somehow with maybe the same ideals.
Are you a musician?
I'm a musician as well. That's maybe why I'm talking in this route. Yeah.
I learned how to write, if that's what you mean, and I learned how to make a nice tight 3-minute song that will get played on the radio. A bunch of hits for other writers, but I wouldn't say it was evolution. I mean, you either start with a certain kind of spark, and that remains. The rest of it is just, good shoes with a good suit. I really haven't evolved that much. I've learned a lot of how to do it in the studio, and the technicalities. That has evolved, but not the music.
That's very well said. I mean, I do know the list of musicians you've played with and written with, and it's an incredible. I mean, see you in your dreams with Gene Simmons. Can you recall anything of this from the solo LP that you worked with?
Detective opened for Kiss many times. Gene, I've done a couple of TV shows as an actor with also. I'm very close to Gene, I love him. And he asked me to sing on the record, and I went and screamed a couple of screams in the middle of the solo and went home. You know, it's no big, you know, but it's fun. He's a very technical guy. You know, he's not too emotional about these things.
Going back on the live EP, I've listened to it. It sounds great, and it's got a great live feel to it. Who's all playing with you, Michael?
Paul Hill on bass, who was Courtney Love and Pink, the bass player, incredible, so talented. Lauren Molyneux from a Detroit punk band called The Dogs. On guitar, Eric Himmel, who's played with just about everybody, shuffle, slide guitar player. And on drums, Matt Starr, who is Ace Frehley's drummer, also. All of these guys work. You know, they're really good musicians, but what I discovered over the years with them is their dream is there was that, you know, 1970s loud, bluesy, humble pie, Faces, Stonesy, rock and roll. You know, that's what I love, and that's what they love. They've had the pleasure of us over, but we all sort of decided that we were 17 and that we were in our bedrooms looking in the mirror, you know? And there was no tarnish, no evolution, no sophistication, just fucking plug in, you know, and have fun. Have fun. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
You remember fun? You remember fun? You remember laughter? Yeah. It's all gotten a little too serious.
And
although
yes.
I am on Sirius, as you know, which is a whole other story.
Yes, you are serious on Sirius XM. That's awesome, too. Michael, let's see your schedule, man. I mean, I'm sure it's super hectic.
Crazy.
I mean, how do you manage in a day to you know, do radio shows?
Well, I tell you what helps me is you calling me at 1 o'clock and not 1:10. You know, I'm a very disciplined guy. I have 3 hours a day for Stephen and Sirius XM, 5 million listeners every day, and which is more than most American sitcoms, which is a lot of fucking people. In fact, 2 minutes before you called, Mickey Dolenz got hold of me because he was pissed off at somebody, negated the monkey's power. You know, it's an extraordinary life one leads, but I did the radio thing, and I'm doing a video game. Are you a gamer of any kind?
No, I'm not actually.
Right. Well, there's, it's a huge business. It makes the movie business look like a yard sale, and I do them. I do voices for them, and I've been doing this particularly for a year and a half at Warner Brothers, which is another 3 hours a day of work. And then I write my stuff, and I'm writing this musical with this other guy, and it's wonderful. I have a very creative vibe. I think that's why I'm still alive, I think, because I'm 150 years old, Jason. I'm a stat. I'm a vampire.
The vampire.
Well, I'm a sober vampire. Oh, God.
And with lots of knowledge. Lots of stories and lots of knowledge. You have acquired a lot of stories and knowledge with that.
Oh, yeah, the documentary. Did you watch it?
Not yet, but I'm going to watch it for sure because I did watch your trailer and it's totally rocking. It's I didn't realize, certain stuff with you. I interviewed you back in the day, probably 6 years ago, I think.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. The documentary, I think you will enjoy, because it is unlike, I'm not Tommy Lee, I mean, it's a different kind of a story, which I think you'll enjoy very much. And there's a lot of really interesting people in there that have a lot to say. I didn't even watch any of it until it was filmed, until it was done. That was the deal I made with the director. He said, Michael, I don't want to play it to you every other night. Let me make the movie. And it took 8 years. Wow. So when I sat down and watched it on my own, I was very, very emotional, Jason, as you can imagine. Because there's 3 wives in there, one of whom is left the planet. So there's a lot going on in my childhood, which was really fucked up. I didn't have an orphan. So there's a lot of things in there that are not about, getting stoned with Jimmy Page. You understand?
Mm-hmm. And it's mentioned, going away with Jimmy Page for some times. Like, how close were you to Jimmy Page?
I don't think anybody's close to Jimmy Page. I mean, Jimmy Page is an icon, and he is a force of nature. He is the greatest rock and roll producer. Certainly that debut album is probably the best rock and roll album. Certainly sonically, but to be a great friend of his would be difficult. I mean, look what happened to the band, they're not a band that are particularly fond of each other, which is fine. It happens a lot. We had some fun, But you've got to remember that in the 70s, fun was a very different thing than it is today.
Right.
It's a lot more dangerous. Let's just put it that way.
And less cell phones filming people.
And less what?
And less cell phones filming everybody and what they're doing every minute.
Well, yeah. It's nothing was on record, And Peter Grant was an amazing man. He was like my dad. I mean, I loved him, and still do to this day, God rest his soul. But he wouldn't allow anything, to happen without his knowledge. But, it was a very intimate and interesting time. Mm-hmm. It didn't, Zeppelin were the masters of many things, but certainly of privacy.
Right. And that's true. There's a lot of bands that do keep their privacy pretty private. Like, look at AC/DC. There's not much going on inside of that, business. And,
that's a great example. That's a wonderful example. Well chosen. I suggest, though, that they're not quite, shall we say, as flamboyant as certain bands,
Like working with Power Station at Live Aid, how was that feeling, arriving on stage and, playing with John Taylor at that, an icon for Duran Duran?
It was iconic, yeah.
Pretty iconic, huh?
It's fine. It was great. I had a lot of fun. The thing about it was that Robert I've known for years, in his band Vinegar Joe. I don't know if you've heard of it, but he had a band called Vinegar Joe, Robert Palmer. And it was like he had a female singer with him. It was like an Argentina English bluesy R&B, show tune soul thing. And we were good friends, and when I was in a band called Checkered Past with Steve Jones of the Pistols and Clem and Nigel of Blondie. And we opened for Duran. And Andy liked me, and Robert said, no, I don't want to do that. I can't get up in front of 80,000 screaming girls. And he immediately thought of me.
Wow.
Because I can do that, I can get an audience going. And half of them were topless, by the way. But I was in Texas with Don Johnson. He was making a movie. We were just hanging out. He's an old friend. And I got a call saying there's a band that needs a singer. We're in New York. Please come to New York if you're interested. So I went to New York that night. And I went to the office that evening. And John was there. And Timmy Thompson, God rest his soul, sweating profusely, very nervous. Because this is a 6-month tour, man. This is hundreds of, this is $100 million going on,
Mm-hmm.
So they needed a singer. So, they gave me the option of going to London that night to meet with Andy, which I did. I got on the Concorde. I had the cassette of the record. They'd taken Palmer's voice off. I flew to London. I checked into a hotel. I went straight to the studio. I waited for Andy, because he was really the boss of that band. I waited for Andy. It took 6 hours before he got there. They're coming down from up north of England with a couple of bodyguards, and he comes in. I sing a verse and a chorus of Get It On. He hits the control button. He said, let's do it. I get back on the Concorde. I fly to New York, and we started rehearsals next morning. And 5 days later, I was at Live Aid.
Wow. How tired were you that week? I'm sure that's a lot of work.
You don't get tired. When you're in Magic Land, you don't get tired.
And that's
I didn't sleep for the entire decade of the 70s. You don't get tired. You get elated. I was just so excited about the work. Because as an actor, you've got to learn the lines. So I had 30 songs to learn.
Mm-hmm.
30 songs to learn in 5 days. Because the next night after Philly, we played New Orleans, and, it was a 2.5-hour show. So I had to learn all their albums. We did a few of my songs, or 10 of my songs, and, White Light, White Heat, and Dancing in the Streets, and all different kinds of things we do different every night. So there was no time to get tired.
Right. It's like that. Musicians never got tired and sick, because sometimes when you're run down, you do catch like flus and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't.
Wow, great immune system.
Yeah. I'm a healthy guy, I've been sober 14 years of drugs and alcohol, and I work out, and I eat right, and, I have a beautiful woman in my life, and 2 cats, and 20 guitars, and my home with trees. I don't get ill.
Awesome.
I'm a healthy motherfucker,
Let's say acting versus musician, being, the front man of a band. Is there a place you'd rather be, or is it all equal to you?
That's a great question. It is all equal to me. Everybody asks me that question, but very few people say, is it equal to you? They want to know one or the other. And, I'm an artist. I can act, I can play, I can sing my own, and they're both the same. It's called expression, self-expression, and enjoying it, and I've gone back and forth and sideways with all of those different endeavors. And many other things, being a DJ for the last 7 years, it's been as interesting as being a frontman.
And that's a very good way to ask a question. Is it equal? Because, I really want to know, is it equal to you? Because there's people that will slide on certain stuff and say, right now, I'm more into music, so yeah, music's great. But, yeah.
It's whatever I've done both at the same time, it's just this sort of, I don't know how you would put it, but it's an organism of self-expression. So if you're playing an assassin trying to kill MacGyver in the afternoon, and then that night you go to the studio and I sing, More Than Your Mouth Can Hold, which was one of our tunes, which is about Cheeseburger's course. I'm kidding, but, it's all the same. You get up, you do your thing, whatever it is, and it's sort of all coalesced into one expression.
Art is art.
Neither's better or worse than the other. It's all the same.
So art is art, basically, in another sense.
Yes, it's all I've ever known. I've never done anything else, so I don't have anything to compare it to. But yes, it's art. It's creating things out of nothing.
One interesting question here. Let's say 6 degrees of separation. You know about it, I'm sure.
Of course.
How close is your 6 degrees of separation? Because you've been around greats, and you just name it. You've been around these famous people. You are a legend yourself. How do you look at 6 degrees of separation from your point of view?
I've never thought of it. I don't distinguish Clint Eastwood from you.
Wow.
They're all the same, dude. We all share the same secrets. There's no legends. You are all legends. We're all capable of greatness. You just got to go out there and do it. And I don't believe in this, there's this wonderful sort of secret cult of brilliant artists that hover above us in clouds of gold. It's bullshit. You work, you get in, you play, you're kind to people, you're courageous, you're cool, and the world goes by. And then there's another generation that needs that. But in terms of 6 degrees of all of that, I don't know. I've certainly worked with a lot of people, and I would say 99% of that has been tremendously rewarding. The only one that wasn't rewarding was Steven Seagal, who was a very difficult, troubled man.
Wow. But
the rest of it is beautiful. And and listen, man, I'll tell you, when you meet somebody either shiningly bright like Sidney Poitier or Jack, who I did a movie with, they are the most normal people you'll ever meet. Because you have to have a degree of normalcy to coexist in the world and to have that longevity. Mm-hmm. Because there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, and you've got to have the balls and courage, I think, and the essence, really, to be able to get through all of those things. Otherwise, you fuck yourself, like Brian Jones, or it is, poor souls that feel it necessary, like Britain, to leave the planet. I've never had that feeling because I'm pretty even-headed about these things.
Michael, in your career, have you ever worked with Eddie Van Halen?
Yeah, I sang with him. But Eddie, the thing about Eddie was he didn't sing anybody. He played guitar in anybody's albums. He put Van Halen music. I got a story for you. We were rehearsing. I can't remember what band. We're in rehearsals in Hollywood, and we stop. And I hear, this is a true story, I hear this shimmering sound from the guitar that I've never heard before. And I come out of the rehearsal and I knock on the door. And Eddie opens the door. I just, "Come in, Michael." And I just sit there. And I'm absolutely bewildered. I'm like, even now I'm getting goosebumps. And then we do I Don't Need No Doctor. You know that song, that Humble Pie song?
Yes.
So I do that with him and the band, Alex, and it was uncanny. I would have loved to have been the singer than him, but Ruff was great. And, it's just an amazing market there. And I mean, in fact, the last time I saw him was in a store, a Ralph's. We had this chain store, super grocery thing. And he was in the aisles, just getting food, like every other guy with his little silver goatee. And I said, "Eddie, it's been a long time since I sang I think no doctor." And he did need a doctor. God rest his soul.
Wow. Yeah, to get to play a song with him, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's not everybody that gets to say that.
No, it isn't. And I don't think it's special or clever or anything like that. It just was my life, It's just been the way it's gone.
Looking at your career in music, through the 70s to today, let's say, is there a lot of concerts, etc., demos that's never been released in your catalog?
Yeah, there's a lot of. But, people put it out by now. Silverhead and Detective, there's a lot of bootlegs of those bands because we toured so much. With Checkered Past, there's a few. Here's the thing, to answer your question honestly. I don't really look back that much. Only when I talk to people that really want to know and that are intrigued by, what happened and what went down and what was it like and all of that. And I understand that. But in my own world, I don't really go back to the archives. I have them all stacked in my studio, but I don't really listen to them. The one thing that did happen was when, just before the lockdown, I was going through some Silverhead stuff that we did in Japan, and it just sounded so good. And then I did those couple of gigs with the band The Mistakes, which was just a one-off experience. We've only done 6 shows, and that's probably all we'll do. But I thought, wow, and then the lockdown came, and then I thought, wait a minute, this is the time to put out a live piece of music,
right,
that is somewhat 70s, that somewhat resonates with the past, with that, for me, a golden age of rock and roll. And then so I put it out. But that's the only time I've really gone back and looked at and listened to all of that stuff. I mean, my wife listens to it, and some friends will listen to it, and some of the band members of some of the bands will come over and go, "Oh man," go out to the studio and listen and come back. But I rarely go in there and listen to old stuff.
So you prefer to be a creative and continue writing instead of going back and looking and sorting out the archives, let's say.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that.
But
No,
somebody,
I like to be here now, you know.
but somebody will be interested in the future, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure, you know, my children and whatever, who knows, you know, what will happen. I mean, people are always saying, let's do it out here, you know, let's do all of the bands on a double album, let's do that. Not in my lifetime. You know, but somebody will do it. It's okay. I'd rather do them all again, actually. You know, because whenever you do your stuff in the past, I always wince at something. Oh, no. And then I want to do it again, and maybe I will do it again. I don't know.
Going back on the live EP there that you just released, where was this recorded at?
Club called the Hi-Hat in Los Angeles. Little club, tiny, 200, 300 people. Sweating.
Do you find it
Yeah.
captures better in small places like that, small clubs?
Oh,
than
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, because I'll tell you why, because you're obviously an aficionado of rock and roll. In the mid-'60s, you know, I'd done that movie, just so you know, it was a massive movie. So those kids in that movie, of which I was one, we could go anywhere. We could get in any club. So as a consequence, I saw the Nashville Teens, the Yardbirds, you know, Spencer Davis, you know, the Stones, the Animals. I saw everybody, Hendrix, because I went to school with Mitch Mitchell. You know, I went to drama school with Mitch, the drummer.
Oh, wow.
And he says, come and see this guy, you know, he's amazing. This black guy plays left-handed, you've got to see him. I mean, so in my head, that became what rock and roll is. Not stadiums, clubs. Mm-hmm. So that was the reason I went back to do the Mistakes, you know, because it was the same feeling. But you know, and all of the bands that I've been in have started in clubs, and that is always the most fun you'll ever have. Then it becomes a business,
Right.
you know, and it changes completely. You know, everybody hates each other and goes in different limos, you know, and all of that bollocks. And I'm not, you know, that's why I could never survive in a band for more than 2 years, because it just got. You know, the songwriter gets all the money, and the bass player's living in an apartment, and you're in a castle. You know, the only advice I've ever given a young musician is share the fucking royalties.
Right. Make everything accordingly and, you know, presented correctly and gentlemanly.
Well, no, everybody gets a piece of the fucking action.
Yeah.
You know, so they feel worthy, and they want to get in that studio. They have a vested interest to be great and write some great songs. If you've just got one guy coming in there, you know, that's it turns into a corporation within a year. Mm-hmm. And you don't, you know, your friendship goes right out of the window then, because you start young, keen, ready, brothers, let's go, and then you have a couple of hits and you wrote them, and they want a piece of it, and I think that's absolutely justifiable, and they should have.
Why is it that all bands go into that method, you know, and not keep peace like that? Just
say that again, please.
Let's say what you're discussing, like about the money and stuff being split, you know, equally. Why is most big bands not doing this, you know, since the beginning of time?
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily. I mean, it is true to a degree, but there are U2. You know, there are bands that share the love. you know, and I think you have to work out a relationship with one or two people that are in control. It's a dreadful feeling to feel that you could be replaced at any time. The one person that can't be replaced is the person writing the songs. So either you understand, okay, this is a job now. We are not kids anymore. We've made 2-3 albums. We've got some hits. We're not writing them. He is. Do we want to remain adults and, you know, get a house and have children and live a life and go out on the road and make money live? Yes. The predominance is yes. But inside your artistic self, it will always be a shadow.
Mm-hmm. Well, your knowledge and all this and the way you present this, it's awesome. I'll tell you that, Michael. It's incredible talking to you again, and the way you look at life and all that. I admire that very well.
Well, thank you very much. It's very sweet of you to say so. You know, do you listen to the radio program much?
Not much, no.
Oh, you must. It's so good. It's so good. The music. You love the music. It's just golden, you know, and it's been such an incredible experience for me. Quickly to tell you that when I'm on the radio, Sirius XM Channel 21, I'm not playing my own music. So the exuberance and the enthusiasm is not about me. It's about Sam Cooke.
Right.
You know, it's about the Temptations. It's about Zeppelin. It's about whatever, you know, Primal Scream, you know, whatever. Jack White. And I love musicians. I love the art of music. So I'm as exuberant about their work as I am about mine. And I think that's why I've got such a vast audience, because they want to feel that way. They want to feel enthused and inspired by music. Music is, you know, I mean, it is the secret to the lockdown. I say the lockdown and the rockdown, you know. I mean, I'm playing 3-minute mantras to people, and I give them context and let them know who's in the fucking studio when they made Stray Cat Blues, you know, and who's the engineer, and, you know, what did Keith smoke, and, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, history and context, which you obviously know a lot about, and you know how profound that is, because it makes the music sound better.
Yes. Is this on Deep Tracks? Deep Tracks?
No, man, I have my own channel. Channel 21.
So Channel 21 on it?
Deep Tracks, there's 160 channels. That's one of them, Deep Tracks. And our track is Little Stevens on the
Okay, it's been a while since I had, yeah. All right. Little Stevens on the...
Years ago, and it is unbelievable. Everybody loves from Hollywood to Queen and Vatican. You know? It's amazing. Amazing. And it's so fun. It's learned at 72 and Savage. Yeah. But anyways, delight to talk to you, Jason. You know, you obviously know your stuff.
Yes, thank you very much. And also, I appreciate you taking the time for doing this interview. It means a lot to me, as I'm sure as to you, because your music is great. Let's just say that, and your presence and your style, all that stuff is awesome. And I shall certainly be watching your documentary.
Good, good.
I need to see that.
Yes, it is. Yeah, before you actually write your piece on me, you know, take a look, because there's some quotes and stuff in there that I think you will really be excited by. Steve Jones, Gabriel Byrne, Don Johnson, you know, some of them, John Taylor, a lot of wonderful people in there. And I think you'll enjoy it. So
excellent.
Check it out, man. Thank you so much, and let me know. I'll promote this piece whenever you get it together.
Yeah, I shall do it probably for next week, and this will be on YouTube as well, the interview and the audio, okay?
Oh, great, man.
All right.
Wonderful, the more the merrier. You know, Dustin's been great. If you need anything, just ask him.
All right, well, I appreciate that, Michael, and you've been a gem. You have a good one.
Thank you so much. You have a great day, too. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Bye.